we're going to go over some things that we've done. We've fixed some stretching, which is right here. That's a Graptopedilum ghosty. There are many different kinds. So this is little ghosty we fixed, and just some updates for you guys on what's been going on here. We fixed this guy from stretching, so we cut that head off, and which is the top rosette, and we're getting babies pushing out all along this stem, leaving a couple of leaves on there. It really helps them babies to push out quicker. And that's that top from this little guy, which he was only stretching. He wasn't rotted or anything. And you can see he's starting to plump back up now. He was a little underwatered because he just didn't have any roots for the week that they after I cut him. This little guy is, now for those, I just want to go over, if you're fixing your stretch succulent, just let that end callus. The bigger the stem is, the longer this is going to take to callus. Stretch succulents, you're not going to need to wait much longer than like a few days, like 4 days, 5 days to plant them in some dry soil. The smaller the container, the better. As you can see, that one's in, just because I feel like they get a little bit better of a root system on them when they're grown individually in their own little separate container as a cutting. This little cutting we fixed from rot. Now if you're fixing rot, that's kind of a different story, and it's going to take a little while for this little succulent to recoup because it was overwatered. Think of it like a balloon. These leaves are really plump, and if you continue to water that, it's going to just be really plump and explode. So we fixed this from this little guy. I'll take him out, and I actually cut this one off. You can see where I cut it. I left this one on, which was another baby growing. I'm going to cut that off, take some of the roots off of that with it. And then the stem I left on there, you can see it's already growing a baby and recouping itself. It's not overwatered. That is the brown yucky roots. So I've never pulled this out. I just kind of cut the top off when we fixed it. And that cutting has been laying on the counter for about a week, a good week. It's going to take like 2 weeks for that cutting to recoup before you want to water again. Even 3 weeks, 4 weeks sometimes, depending on how overwatered it is. So some of these brown roots in here you don't want. So just take the brown roots off. And that's why I'm basically going to start from fresh. So you want to get a clean razor or scissor in here. Take this other guy off. I'm actually going to keep some of the roots. You can see we got a little bit of a root system on that. So I'll plant that up just like a regular plant. That we took off of it. This has been clousing for about a week now. And now we can go and plant, because guess what? These leaves are nice and healthy. You're squishing it and it's not exploding now. If you go back in that video from overwatering and fixing these overwatered guys, you can see just how much they were exploding. And they're good now. They are all fixed. So we're going to transplant these in their own little separate containers and get them potted up into something a little bit smaller. You can see the root system on this one. Roots are pretty good. They're pretty white. So as long as you got some white roots on there, it's good. Any brown mushy roots you want to take off. Any mushy foliage down at the bottom, any foliage that's exploding, you definitely want to get rid of. And then these little guys, since it's been about a week or two, it's probably been a little over a week. You just want to get them in some soil after that. So we're just going to plant them. This way they can start growing some roots on them. And then I usually don't water this little guy for about another week or so, another 2 weeks. So 3 weeks altogether this is going to take for overwatered succulents. And the reason I'm doing this video is because I know they can be so tedious and rot out on you and just cause a bunch of problems. So we're going to leave these fixed succulents in indirect sunlight, guys, because we don't really want them to get too damaged from getting overwatered and getting all that sun. So instead of indirect sun over here, we keep them in indirect sun, which is where these little guys are, these little cuttings. These weren't overwatered, but they were cuttings I took. So my cuttings I really like to keep out of direct sun for a good few days after I cut them, because they just tend to get a little deflated like these got. And these are all cuttings. I planted them after a few days. They're acclimating back in that sun. They'll have some roots on them just like the rest of these bad boys in just a few weeks or so, and then I can start watering that pot all the way through. This was a little cutting, a little update for you. You can see it's got a nice root system on it. So now for stalled out succulents. This is a stalled out succulent. And this is an update from rotted out jades. If you go back on my video, these jades were terrible looking. There was no foliage on them. They had nothing on them. They were rotted. We cut the stem, we cut the roots off, and look at how beautiful they've come back. So they come back with a vengeance, guys. I'm going to try to post that link below because I want you to go check that video out. Because these really look sad. There was no foliage on them. They were horrible. I basically just had stalks. And stalled out succulents. So this is pretty stalled out because it's been in this container quite a while. And I need to transplant it. So fixing stalled out succulents, that's all you need to do. Know when to transplant them. If they haven't been growing for quite a few weeks, then you know that, they're pretty much stalled out in a pot like this for something that has this many succulents in this little pot. This one was getting a little stalled out. It was planted up with this little guy in the same pot, in the tiny pot like this. So I separated them because they really needed their own individual space to grow big. And these little babies I like to showcase when they're getting big. So you can see they grow a nice root system on them when you showcase them in a little container and let them grow really big for you. If you guys have any questions on succulents, please let me know. I don't know what I haven't covered yet for you, but if you have any questions at all, just comment below. Let me know what you need, and I'll be more than happy to help you guys. We fixed quite a bit of things going on here that were happening because of the season change. In the colder weather, you're not going to have to water a lot of these guys so often because they're really summer growing and winter dormant. This little bear paw right here is actually winter growing and summer dormant. So it sleeps in the summer and grows in the winter. So we have to give that one a little bit more water and watch it a little bit. Now when I say more water or watering in general, succulents really like a nice douse all the way through, but infrequently. So infrequent waterings, but when you water, you want to make sure you water these pots all the way down to the bottom until that's soaking out, especially for the bigger ones. The little guys like these or ones without roots, this is just kind of a recouping station here. You really don't want to give too much water. See these little guys? If they're sitting in a big pot like this without too much roots and all that water, especially in the cold weather, that's just going to cause a bunch of rotting. So I'm actually going to transplant a lot of these. I've been doing a lot of work over the weekend here, and we're getting these little babies potted up in these little separate containers so they can just take off and be happy all by themselves. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. Thank you so much for watching. As always, happy planting. Bye-bye.